I'm Lindsay Smith with Real Agriculture. I'm joined now by Mike Swidersky, farmer, rancher. What do you call yourself?
That's a good question. Both.
Okay, all right. So we're here at the Ontario Sheep Convention. You spoke yesterday on a panel sharing, how you got into sheep, how you scaled up, and what your operation looks like now, and some of those challenges. So walk us through, kind of quickly. You do have kind of a unique farm, especially for Ontario. So tell me about it.
Primarily a grazing operation with 100% perennial pastures. We do very little tractor work. We don't make hay. We don't grow crops. It's primarily checking and moving livestock.
All right. And now we should probably mention where you are, because you do face, even though location-wise people might think you've got a pretty long growing season, you do have some challenges, do you not?
Correct. We're in the highlands of southern Ontario. So there's three watersheds that come from the Saugeen, the Grand, the Nottawasaga, and actually the fourth, the Credit. So we are very high compared to a 30-minute drive from our area.
Okay, and so what challenges do that pose for lambing and for calving?
We are flat, we are high, so we get a lot of wind, and we are generally quite a bit colder. So it's a bit of a stress.
Okay, for sure. So now, in Ontario, of course, we're in a lot of house systems, and housing systems, of course, take care of some of that weather risk. But you've chosen very much to go an integrated grazing operation. You run cattle and sheep together. Why that philosophy? Why going that route?
It started out as a cattle operation, and we just needed to add nutrients to improve our pasture system. And I was at a talk one time, and there was a gentleman, and he said back in England they had sheep because it was too rough for cropping and too wet for cattle. And I thought, well, geez, I think maybe sheep are the right option. And I did have a bit of experience with sheep back in my late teens in 4-H, and also at the timeline we were not far off the BSE issue, and cattle just at that point did not look like they were the thing to maybe dive head first in totally. So I chose to diversify with sheep.
Now, you do run exclusively perennial land. So do you buy in winter feed? How does that work?
Correct. Yeah, we buy in all our winter feed. I did not want to invest in the equipment or the time that it took to buy hay. And at that time, we were had a local advantage for cheaper priced forage. That has changed a little bit over the last decade, but at that point, hay was definitely a local advantage to purchase hay.
Now, do you bale graze or do you stockpile? How do you feed them in the winter?
In the later months of November, December, we will stockpile graze until the snow is too deep. Then we unroll hay in a different section of the farm every year. We do have some natural wind protection with some wood bush, and we do use some portable windbreaks as well.
Okay. So now one of the challenges that you did talk about, of course, is sourcing genetics, because, of course, when you run outside livestock, pasture-based sheep, those are very different sheep than what you're going to see in an accelerated house system. So what are the breed composites that you use, and how do you source new genetics for your flock?
We're primarily Dorset-based flock. We do have some Ile-de-France, and we have done a little bit of crossbreeding with some North Country Cheviot and some Texel. It is difficult to find that ram line that has been born outside and grazed through the whole grazing season, and also there's not many lambs in Ontario that are grazed. There's quite a few dry ewes, and that's the easy part of the grazing. I think anybody should, if a dry ewe can't put weight on grass, well, it probably shouldn't be in any production system. But it's difficult to find that, and where that ram has been selected to be born and thrive. in a grass-based system.
And so do you house your rams separately and feed them up separately and all that, or do your rams run on the same sort of pasture system as everybody else?
They run in the same pasture system. We've had success that our ewes breed generally all in the first cycle, so we're not worried about an extended lambing season. So we run our rams with our ewes actually right up until after lambing, until we start to see our first ewes come into heat. It's kind of seems like a lazy man system, but it works. It also tests our rams to make sure that they are able to adapt to the same system of our ewes. And we have had some, they bred one season and we culled them because they didn't fit the program.
So that was actually one of my questions, is so you wait till, say, August, right, when you might start to observe heat. Do you end up with a couple of random January lambs or anything like that because you didn't pull them quite soon enough?
Very seldom. We might get one, and the kids kind of like one for 4-H, and I tease the kids that I said, I questioned, how do you fool a judge? I said, have an older lamb. And it works almost 100% of the time. I hate to tease the show people judges, but we really don't like those sheep that are born out of the system, because then you have to worry about them getting bred by something, and we don't get too many of them.
All right. Okay. So now looking ahead, how do you deal with predation?
We employ guard dogs. That's our main. We also have some neighbors who love to hunt with scent hounds, so we encourage them to do that as well. And it does work very good most years.
What breeds of dogs do you use?
We're not picky. We have some Pyrenees, some Akbash, and some Anatolian Shepherds.
Okay. And was that by design, or just sort of how you ended up with that mix of breeds?
It was what was available, and we've kind of been trying to see what breeds do work with our system.
Okay. There's lots of discussion with guardian dogs that certain dogs have different strengths or whatever the case is. I just need a good dog that doesn't chase sheep. That's so regardless of their strengths. All right. And so what's next for your farm? Looking ahead, what would you like to maybe add or change or improve?
We've been expanding our sheep flock based on the benefit they've been adding to our pasture system. And so our sheep have basically increased our forage production enough that it's been in line with our increase of our flock. So that's how we have chosen to grow. So I would like to increase the sheep numbers and lower the cattle numbers, just as a labor standpoint, because sometimes my days do tend to be quite a bit full. And we all, I've got children that are approaching their teens, so we are kind of looking at, do they want to be part of the farm operation and how things can grow. And what that might be, I guess, will depend on what their strengths and interests are.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike, so much.
Thank you.